Peace. Yeah. Welcome to the 33rd Universe episode. About to kick it with my partners and my folks so close the door. If you hungry for some knowledge, yeah, you got it. Here we go. For my leaders and my queens, we trying to build on esoterics, though. Horror films, all that shit tonight, though. Peace and blessings, family. Welcome. I'm early today. Yeah, I'm early. But, here we go. But better early than late, like I usually am. Today, I feel like tonight, but it's today. Today we talking about esoterics as usual. If it ain't esoterics, it's astrology. Baby, is the sound good? Can you hear me good? Can you hear me? Can you see me? Okay, good. Alright, well, let's get into it. I'm going to turn some music down because that's loud. But, that's Track Savage on the beat. Y'all tap in with him. He has beats for sale. TrackSavage.com, if I'm not mistaken. But, Track Savage at Instagram. You can definitely check him out and get the information on that. Been making some music, just vibing out, trying to get creative. But our sponsors today, before we get into it, spirit animals. Tap into our spirit animal collection. We just we put our introduction pieces out. We got some clothes in production now for our sales, and I can't wait to put them on so we can show them to y'all. But first thing, early orders, anything y'all want to do now, we can put them in play rotation, and they'll be to you in about a week and a half. I'm going to be putting together some more shirts and some more apparel that's aligned with our energies. So spirit animal sounds fitted. You got lions, tigers, bears, oh my. But you got, turtles. We're going to do pandas. My son loves pandas, so we're going to put pandas in the game. Snakes. If y'all got any type of spirit animals that y'all really, really enjoy or love that we don't have, tap in, email, DM, whatever, more dreams. And let us know what y'all are into. Moredreams.com, tap in. Low Solo Art as well. Tap into her page, my wife's page. She's building a lot of different things in her structure. She has a journal on Amazon right now, 2 of them, a blank journal, and one of them is a journal with activities and day-to-day guidance to get in touch with your spirit. It's called the Spiritual Mirror. That's at lowsoloart.com. You can check her out on Instagram, and you can check her out on the World Wide Web. But let's get into this, man, because this is interesting topic. I'm excited to talk about this. It's always fun to talk about esoterics for me, man. I'm into that type of stuff. I like to talk about the things that are tucked away behind the front, behind the screen. There's usually a stage, and there's people on the stage, and sometimes there's people behind the stage, or all the time there's people behind the stage, on the side of the stage, above the stage, doing different things to help out, to add to, and to put together a show. So a lot of times when you're reading books, watching movies, and you're learning different philosophies even, there's messages behind those. There's messages behind those covers. So there's exoteric and then there's esoteric. I got a lesson on that in one of my lives. I talked about that in the Faces of Spirituality, and basically how the energies are on the front. There's a face, and then behind it there's something not quite the same as the face. There's things that tie in to make the face, and then it's like, oh, that's why the face looks like that. So you put together things when you get behind a topic. So I love to talk about what is behind topics, esoterics. That's why they call me 33rd eye, because I use my third eye to gain the knowledge that's a little more important, because you can learn from anything that you dig into, any type of information that you appropriate yourself with. You can learn from it. And a lot of times when you watch these feature films, these movies have mythologies that attach directly to some of our lineage connected stories anyway, and our lineage backgrounds anyway. So Candyman is the topic tonight. Candyman is right here. I got my main man right here. Check him out. You know what I'm saying? But I love Candyman because what it represents. A lot of people used to be scared of it, still are to this day. They got the remake, and shout out to Jordan Peele. We're gonna get into all of that this evening. But first, energy. Energies are what we deal with right now. We're dealing with the energies, and I got a live on sexual energy, and I have a live on how family ancestry works. I have that on YouTube and on my Instagram, so check that out in the bio. But the energies never die, and energies never cease. Energies only cultivate, build, transform, and cultivate again. So when you're dealing with people, humans, animals, anything, there's an energy that possesses the being or object. Even these stones, these crystals, or these earth rocks, moon rocks is what I like to call them, but earth rocks, whatever you want to call them, these things have energy as well, and energy transfers just as the electricity is in these walls and on these cords that attach to our devices. So the energy builds in a being, and the energy at some point transforms out of the body in a being, and the energy typically goes to its next quality of rotating cycles. So I got a lot of theories on that. A lot of people got a lot of theories on that. We don't exactly know where we're going when we get done with this situation, but it's a safe bet and a safe notion to say that the energy does not die. It transfers over to the next generation or generations down the line, because it proves in your family trees when you look and see that your uncle looks like your child, or your great granddaddy looks like you, and all these different coincidences, and you act like this person, and you do this thing like this person. This is all energy that transfers over to the next person and the next lineage. So when you're talking about Candyman, and I want to discuss how horror movies depict hauntings, how horror movies depict peace and blessings for mode, but how hauntings depict the aspects of the spiritual side of things, the hidden side of things, and it taps into some of the unseen. So some of the unseen is when I like to dig in. So me personally, I have always been a huge fan of horror movies. Even as a little kid, I was just big fan of Child's Play, and I always wanted to see Nightmare on Elm Street, and I just was into it. So when I got older, I started to understand how the movies played parts and made sense. You know, some horror movies are just senseless killings and gruesome murders, and some crazy clown's going to come kill you. But there's some horror movies that tap into a esoteric message, and it shows you something deeper in meaning when it comes to the spirit and the spiritual realms. These spiritual realms have a magical essence to them, and these spiritual realms have a powerfulness that is beyond the physical. Because if you look at matter of fact, if you dig into the elemental levels of being, you have the physical, which is the most basic and the slowest form of being there is. Then you have a higher level, which ends up being water, and then you have the gas, then you have the ether, and so on. It gets higher and higher. So that's the same thing as the body and the spirit. So once you leave this body, as long as you have ascended and you have not reincarnated or put yourself in reincarnation or in limbo, your ascension allows you to become gaseous or near a higher level of being. So you're now able to use different energies of living, and curses. You can put curses on people, and people think you can put curses on people, you know, as humans and this and that. And there's different things that you can do if you are able to channel a particular energy. Yeah, you can put curses on people, but when you're in a spiritual body, total spiritual body, you're able to do a lot more harm and damage. So let's take, for example, Nightmare on Elm Street. Nightmare on Elm Street was a movie about what? Let me take my water break, because I'm thirsty as hell. Nightmare on Elm Street was all about the pedophile that got caught playing with the children inappropriately, and the people in the neighborhood and the people in the community found out about it. They trapped him in a barn and they burned him alive. So when they burned him alive, his body and his spirit, his body and his spirit parted ways, and his spirit goes into limbo because of his improper death. It wasn't a ascension, it was a abortion, pretty much. So when you get aborted, you are more or less sent to a stage of limbo. You're sent to a phase of like you can't go in or out. So now that's where ghosts come from. You can't get back into your body because you've been ejected out of it improperly, and you're not ready for ascension because you haven't done the work on earth. So your spirit is stuck in a state of limbo. If you ever seen the movie Soul, this is kind of a good depiction of it. The character, Jamie Foxx, he dies in the beginning of the movie, and because he accidentally died, he was ejected from his body type of death. His spirit went to limbo, and throughout the movie he had to fulfill his destiny. So he didn't quite ascend just yet. But sticking to the Freddy versus Jason, but sticking to the Nightmare on Elm Street, he was burned up, killed, ejected from his body. His spirit was sent into limbo. So him already being a demonic spirit, being a pedophile, he went into haunting the children in their sleep. You know what I'm saying? So these are just examples of how the spirit can become more powerful than the body. So if you remember the movie, these movies, I and a lot of people revert to movies because the movies are depictions of something that somebody has already created, and a lot of times it's not a creation, it's something that they have witnessed or seen or remixed based on what they have witnessed. So I always like to reference a good movie that has esoteric backgrounds because those things. But when you dig into the facts of him haunting the children after he was ejected from his body, you got all kind of movies that have talk about ghosts and all this stuff. You remember Jason, he was thrown in the pool by his friends at the summer camp. And when he got out of the pool, of course his body was dead because he couldn't swim. So his spirit was ejected, but he was not ready for ascension. He was stuck in limbo. And what did he decide to do? He decided to go and kill the teenagers that, what's the name? That threw him in the pool. Or threw him in the lake. So these are examples of how spirit comes to haunt people. And the exorcisms and the paranormal activity movies and the Conjuring movies. Have you ever seen a black person need an exorcism? Have you ever seen a black person talk about paranormal activity? Now, we are the spirit beings, and we control this physical dimension, so there's no way for us to really experience conjuring effects or exorcisms or the poltergeist type of vibes. Now, we do experience a little bit paranormal. We can see and hear and feel different things walking amongst us, spirits traveling amongst us, because we have that intuitive soul. We have an intuitive soul that can sometimes see beyond the physical. But all in all, that ain't happening. That ain't happening, man, for us, black people. So a lot of times these white people will be all jacked up and conjuring conjured up something, and then it conjured up the wrong energy because they have done somebody wrong, stole somebody's land, pillaged somebody's village. You know, the whole Indians got killed, the ancestors, the indigenous beings got wiped out. The whole story that plays out to be a curse ready to happen, karma ready to happen, because you have unrighteously gained access to something that you have no business gaining access to. So when you come and pillage a village, do you think that you just got away with that because you killed the person? You did not kill the spirit. You did not kill the soul that travels on. And the soul, sometimes, a lot of times, in these pillages, they get trapped in limbo. They're not able to ascend. They're not able to ascend and escape this 3D dimension. This dimension is said to be hell. This is the hell, is what it's said to be. And sometimes some beings get trapped in hell. Their spirit gets trapped in hell. So that's when you get these different paranormal activities happening all around. And they only can be harmful to people and individuals that are not melanated and that are not indigenous to this land, which will be 9 etheric beings. And you have 6 etheric beings, which people have spirit, no soul. The spirit is what gives them a leg up, but a leg up over other beings. But 9 etheric beings are the supreme quality on earth. So when you get into Candy Man, you have a realism of events that have played out, and they have put them into a movie form. This story has been a real life documentary. It turned into a Hollywood movie, and Jordan Peele, thank God, he remade it again, because Jordan Peele, he's put together 3 or 4 horror movies, and he's put the perspective of horror into its right space. The horror is about the everyday horrors of some of these racial effects, because the spirit attacks as well. So we take these social engineering of racism into spirit as well. So when you die, or your uncle dies, or your oppressor's uncle dies, those okay, let's break it down like this. Say you work with a being that's not your color, he's white, and you're a melanated person. Maybe their ancestors and your ancestors were entangled, and this is only in time and space. When I say entangled, in time and space, they were entangled in the space, and they were the oppressor over your melanated family. Though that energy will resonate all the way through generations and generations and generations down the line to you and that non-melanated person, white person. But this is how generational racism continues, because whoever started this shit, based on what all these different premises, it started a stigma amongst 2 generations and 2 people, and they carry that down lineages, and then wrongdoings and different things are happening, and different wars and different all these different things are happening on the physical, but no one is taking into account of how the spirit and the soul collides with these happenings, because some of these happenings are ejections of the soul and spirit from body. And like I said, if you get ejected from your soul and your spirit, you're not able to complete your work, and you are stuck, or you're coming back for reincarnation. You know what I mean? So the story of Candy Man is about what? It's about this black man. He shows up in the mirror when you say his name 5 times, right? Yeah, that's the basic. But the original Candyman movie is depicted in Cabrini Greene Projects. Cabrini Greene Projects is pretty well known. If you look it up, Google it, or what I like to do is use different search engines. So when I search up information that's a little esoteric, I like to use engines and search engines that are different than Google, because Google will wipe your searches, and your searches at the top, of course, will be maybe, I ain't gonna say of course, but sometimes will be propaganda and false. Excuse me. Might be false. So I like to go to different search engines, get some of my information. But you want to search up Cabrini Greene, and you'll find a lot of different things. But if you want to go back to the origins of some of these things, you'll have to put together the pieces of the puzzle in the beginning. Let's pull up some slides so we can get into it. But you'll have to start with the beginning, and you will have to look at some visuals that look like this. And this is what you call a mound settlement. A mound settlement is pretty much, early day village, early day nation, or early day city. You know what I'm saying? The city, what you call this is Cahokia. And these are the Cahokia Mounds, and they belong to the original settlers of this land. The original settlers were in the Midwest and also in the Philadelphia area, closer to New Jersey and around there. But in Illinois was one of the biggest, which is this one, this picture that you see here, one of the biggest mounds and settlements that existed in the Americas. So people that look just like me and you, black melanated people, when I say that, they look just like me and you. They walk these earths, and they had villages and nations that looked like this. Let me see if I can come up with my map. But the maps of the Cahokia, boom. That's the new time map. That's right there in Illinois. Chicago's a little further up, but Cahokia was 200 some yards, 200 some thousand yards. So it reached near all the way up to that waterfront, because the Mississippi goes through that Gulf and comes down and goes all the way down out the Gulf at the bottom. But the lake, not the Gulf, but I'm sorry, the lake, it comes out the lake and river flows all the way down to the Gulf. But settlers always find flowing water, fresh flowing water. So a lot of times they would go to the bays, which is Tidewater areas, Virginia. Shout out Newport News, y'all. But all those type of areas were prime areas for settling as well. But any of those areas where the lakes are up top of Chicago and Illinois, they were flat plains out there, and they had the river, and they had the lake. So that was a lot of pluses for settlement to happen in that area. So you have the Cahokia settlers and the Mississippians. Let me get my other map. The Mississippians are some of the tribes, names that settled. Let me pull this up. You can kind of see that. That's a good little map of how the Mississippian culture was produced. You have the origins, like I was saying, up in this area in the top, where Midwest area, where the Illinois, Chicago, and the southern Illinois was at. And what happened is they branched out in all different areas. And in the beginning, they were all Mississippians because they came from that mound area in Cahokia, that huge mound settlement. And this was in the early 700 AD. It began in the prime essence of the mounds. It was the 1100 AD, and then you had about 14 to 1500 AD. That's when settlements started to disperse and things started to die down in that area for Cahokia. But let me get another picture of the map. But if you're not familiar with mounds, let's get another picture of this up. The mounds were important to, here we go, great picture for that. Mounds were important to these tribes and these nations and these settlements because they had ritual on these lands, and they built edifices for their dead so that they can place them all in one space together, and even their sacrifices, put them all in one space together, and so that they can denominate that energy into one space and one ley line. This was not a random area on the earth. They were playing ley line. Oh man, I didn't save that picture. But they had ley lines. They have ley lines of where the energetic areas are hot at, pretty much like hot spots on the earth. The hot spots on the earth have vertical and horizontal lines that go all the way around, energetic lines. And there's different, it's kind of like veins, like different veins that go through your body. Excuse me. The different veins that go through your body, they're like certain spaces and certain parts are important, and just like the heart. So there's a ley line right there, boom. There's all different veins that go there, but when you go further down, you only have certain veins that go here. So similar to the earth is a breathing, living organism. Think of it like that all the time. So these ley lines are geographical, horizontal, and vertical lines that go up and down the atmosphere. And on certain parallels in certain spaces, there's energetic areas that are hyperactive in its energy. So they would like to put their mounds over top of these areas so that they can retroactivate the energy, pretty much usurp the energy, and they would put their dead to rest on these ley lines so that their people and their spirits can be ashayed, which is just powered up. You know what I'm saying? So when you get Christopher Columbus and whoever else coming through and damaging and pillaging these villages and digging these up, and you got tomb raiders digging these mounds up, searching for gold, searching for different clues and trying to figure out what was going on here, and all these different things is sacrilegious to the spiritual offering that these people have given to the earth and to their spiritual guiders. So in the Cahokia area, you have Illinois and St. Louis and Detroit and all these different modern day cities and places. All these modern day cities and places that are known for racial profiling. So you got to understand, when the biggest settlements have been put. Oh, I'm sorry, the the music's too loud. I turned it off. The cities are racially profiled and racially put into a space where there's a constant profiling and constant appropriating of the races, and making sure that different things stay in order and projects stay up for the oppression of the melanated being, the original man that is indigenous to this American land. So you have Chicago, which is where Candy Man story plays out at Cabrini Greene Projects, which is interestingly enough where Good Times, the TV show, was supposed to be filmed at. That's what the setting is for the Good Times TV show. And if you know anything about Good Times, they were always in a impoverished situation, and they were always being oppressed, especially by the police and by their government, keeping them in a lower state of living. But it was a great show because it was black family being connected and loved each other and being creative, trying to figure out ways to pay the rent. But ultimately, they was just trying to show pictures of us being moderated and navigated only through this type of atmosphere and this type of style of living. So Cabrini Greene Project is right on the river, the Mississippi River. And like I said, settlements were on those rivers. And before those, they had mud settlements in the exact areas. In the 1850s, they had mud settlements where they were, just patting mud together and keeping it firm and together. And they would have settlements like that. But in the 1942, they built projects and built Cabrini Greene. Oh, excuse me. And in 20 years, it was reports and civil and criminal suits for racial profiling in the 60s. And I think Chicago was one of the places where they had riots. I think they had riots in Detroit too, where the city was burned up. Chicago, definitely, they burned the city up. And I believe, I'm not sure, I don't know if Chicago had a riot, but I know Detroit, it was a riot. But anyway, Chicago had high crime rate because the oppression was high, very, very high, and they wanted to keep these indigenous people at a low state of being, because if they ever raise their frequency of living or mindset, they will become tapped in with the beings that were present in these Cahokia days on these mounds and in these mud settlements. And these beings were very, very, very informational when it came to their esoteric knowledge, because they were tapped in with the nature, and the nature and the connection to their Mother Earth. It taught them a lot about how to walk and how to live life. So they didn't have to have somebody teaching them and telling them every day what to do, how to do, and live it, because they had, from inside, they had the information come out, and they were able to communicate this information amongst each other without a written language. Cahokia days, they did not have a written language. So just imagine how special these people were and how magnificent the energy was if they were able to put together settlements without even speaking and talking to each other. It was making sounds and, having different things like that. So these settlements are the prime reasons why the projects were built over top of these areas, and projects were made to oppress our melanated people, and our melanated people are what? Our Spanish beings and our black people. So you never seen a project full of white people. You never ever in your life seen that. Never. Because they only put our melanated people in these spaces, and these projects are exactly what they sound like. A project. They are projecting how and where they want these type of people to end up when they are done living in this space over a long period of time. So the psychological buildup of people in the projects is an oppressed standpoint, and it's an oppressed place of stagnation. It's nowhere for you to breathe and nowhere for you to be when you're in that space. So you have Chicago, and you have all these different places come out. You have all these different places come out of what Cahokia was. I have this one of these maps, and this map was interesting. I found it had Chicago right here in this area where Chicago is. And I didn't do a whole lot of research, but I did look into it, and I believe there was a chief warrior called Chicago or Chicago or something of that gist. And I found this on the map, so I'm not sure if there was people named Chicago, or if it was a king named Chicago and that area just was his area. But I'm going to do some more research. You should do some research as well, because all of this information is on the internet, and it is very intriguing that a lot of people do not know some of these basic background studies of what they do and see or come in contact with every day. So keep it moving, because we got to get back into Candy Man. Candy Man is the topic. So Cabrini Greene projects, these same people, these same indigenous people that have reincarnated and have been put back on Earth and have came back to the same area, are now living in Cabrini Greene. and now are being oppressed, and now are being mistreated, and now are being killed, brutalized, and raped, and all these different things, the same way as the people from the mound builders of Cahokia were done. So it's no wonder why these things were going on, because it stems from the beginning. They stole this land, or took this land from these people. They put them all into a place of impoverishment, and all into a place of follow the leader, due to trickery, thief, and deceit. So you have people come back as Candy Man. So all the little details about Candy Man, I don't really know what the producer or director had in mind for them. So him being the Candy Man, that just tells me that he was the guy in the hood that was the nice guy. He wasn't the guy in the hood that was selling drugs. He was the nice guy in the hood that was giving candy to children. And if you know one thing about most black people, now don't get me wrong, there are black people that, you already mentioned the part about the governor of Major Living out there. Major Living? What Major Living? Oh, no, I didn't say that yet. I was gonna say that, not yet. But the mayor of Chicago, she lived in Cabrini Greene to prove a point, and I think this was some propaganda, but she tried to prove a point to say that it was safe and it was okay to live in, and they say that she lasted in there for 3 weeks, and that is an interesting point, because I think Candyman had to do with that premise. That mayor probably was digging into some other things just to see what was going on. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, you have these people in Cabrini Greene getting mistreated and killed, and you have the Candyman. He was giving candy to children, and you wouldn't see him as a pedophile. That's not in our DNA or DEA. That's not our style. So him being a Candyman, it let me know that he was a good person, and he was a good person in the hood, and he looked out for the family, and the community. He may have been a little slow, a little weird, but you know, who ain't weird living in the projects after being oppressed and all these different foolish things happening to them. But anyway, him coming back with a hook on his arm, because when he shows up in the spirit, and he kills a person or kills whatever, but he shows up with a hook. That's because they mutilated him and they chopped his hand off for stealing or some shit. I don't remember. But anyway, they cut his hand off and he put a hook on his hand. And he come back to kill the people and all the white people attached to it. So the new movie, Jordan Peele, he depicts it pretty accurately, but the Candyman goes and attacks the appropriate people that was oppressing him, and the people the ones that was oppressing him. The one movie, it was because he was messing with the white girl. Oh, the first movie. Yeah, that's right. I think that movie, it was something burning and she ended up saving the baby. I can't really remember how the first one went. the second one was a little more interesting, the story, because it held more appropriate to the Cabrini Greene story and the oppression and all these different things. But the Candy Man represented the oppressed being in the hood, the being that was being mistreated, tortured, and ended up getting his life, his spirit, and get his spirit and his soul aborted from his body for being, a black person. He didn't get to experience his essence, and he didn't get to share his essence. So he had to come back to earth and come back to earth. And some of these people didn't come back to earth. They just were in limbo. So you have attacks. You have these exorcisms and these conjurings. You have all these things that happen, and then it's their back is spinning, and they're doing all these different things, and they're all messed up because they done fuck with the wrong land, or fuck with the wrong person, or they done conjured up the wrong spirit. And a lot of times, the people in control of the spirit realm are those that have the most powerful souls, and that is the 9 etheric beings. So people that have spirit only, which would be, Asians and your whites and some Spanish people, but most of your Spanish and all of your melanated black people, they are 9 etheric beings, and they are different beings. They have a more powerful spirit and soul, and their soul and spirit is able to mess you up. You know what I'm saying? So it's interesting how the essence of something can travel through to spirit, and the spirit can handle the physical duties of, it's like when you call on God and you ask him to handle something and it gets fixed. It's interesting how these things actually happen. Sometimes God tell you, "No, I ain't gonna fix that. You need to figure it out because you're gonna keep asking me how to fix it." But sometimes God will be like, "God, fix it." You be like, "Oh man, thank you." But I really appreciate you tapping in. I think we touched bases on everything what I wanted to tap bases into. Pretty much the mounds and these settlements were all strategically laid out on the earth in Americas, because the Americas, contrary to popular belief, that is the most nutrient-rich nation on this earth. That is this America right here. So when they're trying to tell you to go back to Africa and all these different things, that's a propaganda tool to get you off of your land. A lot of us black people, are from these lands over here in the Americas, and we are indigenous to these spaces. So get you an Indigenous Genius shirt today at moredreams.com. You got t-shirts and champion hoodies, great quality. My wife just got hers in the mail. She's going to post it on the internet for y'all to see, but go to moredreams.com. You can see it on the website. But these mounds were strategically placed, and when you get new settlers, which were all European and all, they were all Caucasoid beings, they all came over with a savage mindset, tricked a lot of people, and killed a lot of indigenous people, and pillaged a lot of indigenous people. and they took their wives and raped the indigenous women so that they can put their DNA into our DEA and mix the bloodlines and to strengthen their bloodline. So you got to understand how sick and savage a lot of these things were, and how an ancestor could turn in spirit and would want to get revenge so savage as to turn into a being like Candy Man. You know what I'm saying? So you call up Candy Man and say his name 5 times, and you ain't on his side, he gonna kill you. He gonna fuck you up. Call Candy Man and you ain't on his side. It's just like calling up an ancestor or a spirit that ain't on your side. Now, as a non-etheric being, nothing can harm you, but a spirit can play a trick on you, on anybody. So some spirits and souls can trick other beings. So make sure you're tapping into the right mindsets, tapping into the right souls, right spirits. You know what I'm saying? Making sure that you understand what you're conjuring up, because you can use spirit on earth and you can tap into your ancestors on earth. So go to these locations, go to these mound locations, go to these places where ancestors were said to be settlers at, and you want to unlock the energy that is there. You want to properly release the energy that is there, and you want to allow atonement for those that have pillaged and been done wrong, so that they can be freed, or any ancestors that are stuck may be freed. You know what I'm saying? Go to a mound, visit a mound. Go to a ley line that's important. Tap into the ancestral ley lines and tap into the things that are important. Ross Ben is a very, very great teacher. Legendary Ross Ben. YouTube him or Instagram him. He has some very, very knowledgeable information on mound builders, Philadelphia and the original settlers, and he has a lot of information on the understanding of how, why, and what mounds are, and the importance of us visiting them, unlocking the spells, and unlocking our people. So free your mound and your mind will follow. That's Ross Ben's book, amazing book. I did a lecture on that book. It's on YouTube. Check it out. Check Ross Ben out. It's a great piece of information. It changed my life. Changed the way I looked at the world. Definitely did. But Candy Man, I hope y'all understood and enjoyed the presentation. The presentation is a deep dive. Some people might not get it, but if you did not get it, it ain't for you, man. I'm sorry. I'm just sorry. But I like to talk about esoterics. I love to talk about astrology. Anybody listening, looking live right now, let me know if y'all think I should do some astrology next week, because I think I got some astrology information I want to get into, but I always like breaking down some type of esoteric background information on something. So tap in with me, let me know, give me some feedback about what y'all want to hear, what y'all want to build on. You know what I'm saying? Until then, check in moredreams.com, losoloart.com. Just check in with our vision, man. We got a vision that is important and beneficial to the culture, because our vision is about unity. Our vision is about self-expression. Our vision is all about being able to tap into your godliness by way of being unique, not being the same and not taking rules for face value. Rules are not rules. Rules are someone's point of view of what's right. Is those rules right for you? That's up to you to figure out. But tap into our vision. We have the beginnings. Like I said, get on it early because we will be major in a few years. It's gonna be major, man. I really appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all tapping in, looking at my information. Spread the word and get your word out. If you got something to say, man, plug me in. I want to hear what y'all got to say as well. So, peace and blessings. Love y'all.